3, 4,
Wow.
5. We're on.
Hello once again, ladies and gentlemen, at the cusp of freedom. And you already know what we talk about, but mind yourself that we do have to take everything you hear on this podcast with a grain of salt because we do all come from different backgrounds and experiences. I have a very special friend. I'll let her introduce herself to let you know what she does as a digital nomad, how long she's been a digital nomad for, and also her name.
Hello. So my name's Abby, and I think I've been a digital nomad for about 3 years now, or at least 1 year fully traveling as a digital nomad and 3 years self-employed. I started doing OnlyFans. And now I've branched out and I do coaching as well, life coaching, embodiment coaching.
Interesting. So becoming a digital nomad, as you said, you started off as OnlyFans.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean, so that's like a very different scope from what I'm used to hearing from people become digital nomad as, right?
Mm-hmm.
Usually people have to go to, I don't know, did you go to college at all?
I did, yeah. I went to school, went all through my A-levels, went to university. I studied biological anthropology at university, which took me to the States for a year, and also took me to Uganda because I studied primates, non-human primates.
Interesting. So where are you from?
England.
England.
Yeah.
What made you want to study that? What'd you call? I forgot the last.
Biological anthropology.
Anthropology. What is anthropology?
So it's basically the study of humans, the study of evolution and development, biological being the biological aspect.
Interesting.
But I specialised in primatology, which is non-human primates, so chimpanzees.
And that's why you went to Ghana, because there's a lot of chimpanzees in Ghana or something?
Uganda, yeah. There's, in the Budonga Research Facility, it's like an ecological site. There's a couple of groups of chimpanzees that have been habituated, meaning that they've been around humans for 30 years.
Interesting. You know, I've always asked myself, why aren't monkeys raised? Because they're smart, right? Like, why aren't they raised with us? Or why haven't they evolved with us like dogs have over the past, how many thousands of years, right? Mm-hmm. Like, what would that look like in modern day society if they had? So I kind of asked myself that. What do you think? What do you think about that? I don't know.
About what?
Like, what if monkeys did like evolve?
So there is a difference between monkeys and apes,
yes.
Firstly.
Okay. Well, okay, apes. You're right.
Well, they're on their own evolution trajectory. I think it's very, I forget the word, but comparing us to them is like very...
You can't.
You can't do it.
Okay.
No.
Interesting.
And yeah, they're on their own evolution trajectory. They have evolved. They've evolved in their own way. Evolution is based on your ecology. So they're only ever going to evolve and adapt to the ecological niche that they live in.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I see what you mean.
Sometimes I think we're too far evolved and we need to go back. And that's why I studied them, because I believe that we are becoming so overcome with like technology and the big pharma that we're actually surpassing evolution. We've surpassed evolution. And I think that we need to go back to our roots and go back to plant medicines.
And go back to evolving. Or do we like skip evolution or something like that?
I just think we're evolving so rapidly that we can't even keep up. We don't know what's going on. Like what's going on with AI, we have no idea.
Interesting. This is interesting. Okay. All right, let's take a step back. When you were a kid growing up,
yes.
What did you want to become? Did you want to study evolution as a kid? Like, what was your dream?
So this is really interesting to me because I never really felt like I had a purpose as a kid. My purpose as a kid was to be a kid, and I never wanted to be like a nurse or an astronaut. There was never anything that I aspired to be. All throughout school, I was like seen as a troublemaker or some sort of like rebellion because I didn't fit in and I didn't want to fit in, and I didn't want to like work for someone. I just didn't see that as a life. Life to me was like living and being in nature and like, yeah, being with communities.
Where did it, I don't know, did your parents instill travel in you when you were younger at all?
No.
Where did you get this itch? Is it from going to Uganda for your studies? Is that what opened your perspective a bit, or was that your first time?
So I feel like, as I say, as a child, I've always had this like very curious mind. I grew up in the countryside. I was always outside. And then I just always knew that there was more. And then going through school, I lost my way a bit. And I really think it was from studying what I did, learning about evolution, learning about our ancestors, learning about tribes, learning about plant medicine, which opened me up to veganism, which opened me up to fasting and meditation.
So you think that's when it switched, something switched in that scenario when you studied biological anthropology anthropology
Yes.
to evolution and all this nature stuff started like you felt passionate about studying the thing, so you
Yeah.
pursued that, right?
Yeah.
So what brought you from this kid that didn't know what to do to knowing what to do? And, like who suggested biological anthropology to you?
No one. I kind of found it myself. I studied A-levels, I studied psychology, and I learned in cognitive
okay.
psychology about a lady called Sue Savage-Rumbaugh who works with bonobos, which are they evolved from chimps. They're their own species now. And she was teaching bonobos language. And it was kind of from there that it really interested me, like the parent-offspring relation, how children evolve, how language evolves. I thought I wanted to do linguistics, which is interesting. I realised that I thought I wanted to do that because it wasn't until my final year of university I learned I had dyslexia.
Okay. Wow, what?
Dyslexia.
What is that?
So I have problems with like spelling, with language is like super hard to me because of like the sounds and the breakdown of sounds and all of this. Yeah, so what was the question?
You found out you had, so you were telling me how you got into biological and anthropology, so this lady that inspired you to her teaching or something like that.
Yeah, and I learned about chimps, and I was just kind of like, wow, this is what I want to do. I want to learn more about primates. I want to learn more about our closest living relatives. Where have we come from? Like, who are we as a species?
Okay, so your first trip outside of England was maybe you traveled within Europe or something, but traveling to Uganda or
America was my first trip on my own. So it was my third year of university. I did a gap year. I studied in America as part of my university degree.
Oh, I see. So it's pretty common for people to travel when they're in England, right?
Yeah.
To the States.
If you have money, which I didn't, but I saved up a lot, and it was very inexpensive through the uni through an exchange.
Okay, interesting. Did traveling to America change your perspective? Did traveling to Uganda change your perspective, and how?
Perspective on what? It changed my perspective on a lot of things.
Perspective on, yeah. How did it change your perspective? I don't know.
So from going to America, I learned different ways of living. I mainly learned more about like the education system and how it varies in different places.
Yes.
But going to Uganda, obviously it's a completely different way of life. It's a third world country, and just seeing people drinking water as well as bathing in that same water, as well as like using it as like a toilet or whatever, like it really opens your eyes up to different ways of living and to communities. And although it seems, so this is a really interesting thing actually, my lecturer warned me. He said, have you guys ever been to a third world country? And we were like, no. And he said, you're going to see things that are going to be upsetting that you're not used to seeing. And I was like, okay. Actually, when I got there, it was upsetting to see, but it was kind of beautiful because people were living naturally and people were living in communities, and there was a lot of love and there was a lot of community. It wasn't until I got home that I went and took a shower. I had this hot water coming out. I had my mum going, Mum, Abby, do you want a cup of tea? And I was like, oh my God, like this is too much.
Interesting, very interesting. Okay, so for one, I got two questions. For one, do you think people can pursue a digital nomad lifestyle, pursuing if they studied biological anthropology, whatever? Yeah. Do you think they can become a nomad that way? Like, could you become a nomad doing that?
Like a digital nomad or a nomad? What's the
digital nomad? Like, can you work and travel with that?
Work and travel. You can definitely work and travel, but the thing is like my speciality, my niche, I'd have to be in certain places. I'd have to be where the primates are.
Okay.
And I'd have to be working in some sort of like ecological site or research facility site. I wouldn't be able to travel freely, like bopping between countries, backpacking.
Okay, so that's interesting. So take note, guys. If you want to study biological anthropology, you might still have some location dependency. But if you do want to have location independency, we're about to dive into that right now. So you said the first time you started the digital nomad lifestyle, you did OnlyFans. So can you guide us through that? What were some were there challenges in opening OnlyFans? What made you want to go into OnlyFans?
Okay, so I finished uni. It was COVID. I was going to go straight to do my master's, and I had it all planned out, and COVID hit, and I did my final year studying online, and it just wasn't the same. I wanted to be in the lab. So I said to myself, okay, get a really rubbish job in retail that you're going to despise. So once all this COVID blows over, you'll be, motivated to go back and do your master's. So I did this retail job. I hated it every day, 9 to 5, menial, like I respect people that work in any kind of retail. It's horrendous. And my boss actually was really nice, and she was like, oh, it's very quiet today. Grab a magazine, stand behind the till, look busy, just flick through. I was flicking through, and I saw this girl. It was like a Hello OK magazine. I never read anything like that, but it's just the kind of stuff they had in the store, and I was bored. And it had this lady on there who was like, I made like £1 million by doing OnlyFans. And I was like, hello. I was like, okay. And I was like, this sounds interesting.
Did you know what OnlyFans was when you read it?
You know, to a degree, and people have like preconceived notions of what it is.
It is, okay.
I've always been a rebel. I've always been not body positive, but wanting to be body positive.
Yeah.
And I've always had like this freedom of expression, like free the nipple and all of this kind of thing. Yeah, and I just, the repression and all of this. And I was like, do you know what? I feel like real change can be made within this like platform. This is a niche that gives power back to people, not industries. Now,
Facts.
are we allowed to see porn? Can we say
That's
porn?
true.
Yeah. Okay, so I think it's very different to porn. I think porn is very misogynistic.
Yeah.
It's very unrealistic.
Yeah.
It's very like, there's a lot of revenge porn. It's just very seedy.
Facts.
Which is why I struggle with like with the OnlyFans. I basically want to move it to more of like a body positivity and more like authentic expression. And I want people to realize like sex is beautiful. Relationships and connections are beautiful. When they're honest, when they're authentic, when they're not scripted or like performed or, you know. So that's the kind of like way I want to go down with my OnlyFans, is like expression and art and liberation and...
Okay, let's dive right into it. So was it challenging? Okay, I think that honestly you convinced me.
We might make content after this. Stay tuned.
I'm wait. But anyways, do you think that there's challenges having a successful OnlyFans account? And what are those challenges, and how did you approach them?
Definitely. So people honestly think when you tell people to do OnlyFans, they're, oh great, you can just take a couple of pictures, put them online, and you're a millionaire. No, there is a lot. It's business, and it's mostly advertisement as well. It's mostly like selling yourself through social media and other platforms, collabing and like whatever else. It is very hard, and it can be, you get out what you put in.
Just like YouTube?
Can be like YouTube, yeah.
Okay.
You're making videos, you're advertising yourself, or however, whatever you want to make on that platform.
Interesting.
I'd say it's people being modest. Like, I'd say because I'm like, I look the way I do, maybe it's like a little bit easier for me. Being young, being like a female, being like a bubbly personality.
Okay, so there's things that people want to see.
There is, but also I don't want to give in to that. I only want to put out what I want to put out.
Yes, exactly. So,
which can be hard because you can like feel like you have to do certain things in order to, you know, I feel like that's very much what porn is. There's like some sort of competition and you have to perform a certain way and do the latest trends and all of this.
Yeah. Don't you think that for a lot of people that get in, do you think that for the majority of people that get into OnlyFans, they don't find that much success because maybe they don't check all the boxes they need to check to grow their account successfully? Maybe they don't look a certain way. Maybe they're not doing certain things, right? So they're not that successful. So do you think that morally or whatever, maybe not even morally, but like just with the same perspective that people started with, it might shift a little bit while they're in it because they might get a lot more hungry and do more because that's the way to get to more? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, firstly, also, I just want to like reiterate that although I said that about myself, I think anyone can do OnlyFans.
Yeah.
I think like everyone's beautiful and everyone has different like desires and tastes and like things.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's like one type of person that should do it. That is the idea.
Yeah.
But I think people don't realize how it's not just taking a couple of photos and then like, you know, there is a lot more work to it. And I think people go into it maybe thinking that and thinking it's going to be a lot easier than it is, and then they get discouraged. But I think that's with any job. You need to go into it with passion and purpose, especially if it's a self-employed job, and especially if it's a nomad job where you're doing it, traveling and self-employed. You need to have that drive.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's cool. So you started off with OnlyFans. Are you still doing OnlyFans?
I am, yeah.
And did you mention that you were doing something else too?
Yes.
What is it?
So I don't know if you've heard of Jay Shetty.
Jay Shetty, what is that?
Jay Shetty, he's a person, he also has a podcast, he's like a monk, he's got books out, he's like a
Okay.
very beautiful man with a very like passionate, purposeful, moral life.
Yeah.
And I'm part of his Jay Shetty coaching certification school.
Oh, nice.
So I'm going through a certification school via coaching, because you don't actually need a qualification, but I think it can be unethical. It's like any job, you
Yeah.
need to have like qualifications and understanding and ethics. So I'm training right now to be a life coach.
Yeah.
And my style of life coaching, my page is called Authentically,
Yes.
which stands for authentic, and felicity in Spanish is happiness.
Will be in the links below.
And basically, I want people to live their most authentic and happy life. I want people to find their purpose, find what really drives them, because it took me so long to find what I was passionate about. Teachers and family and all this influence telling you what you should do. But really, like, I think I met a lot of people. A lot of my friends are older, and the people that I've met are like sort of starting their life over, and they've gone, I've lived until I'm like 40, 50, I've had kids, and now it's my time to actually live. And they're like starting over and like finding what it is that they want to do. They're shutting out all the noise or the external societal pressures, and they're really going into like their heart and their like passion. And I want people to find that purpose and find that vocation that makes them happy, and also to slow down and to like not be in such a fast-paced society where it's like a dog-eat-dog world and money's the root of all evil and all of this like rubbish that we hear. And I want people to really hone in and become more like holistic and healthy and like really focus on their well-being.
Yeah, I think that's essential and beautiful. What made you want to do that?
I've always had like a passion to help people. I think I do it with my friends and my family already. Like I'm sort of like a life coach for them. And yeah, I just have this drive to, people are always saying to me, you're always so happy, or like you're like, how do you do this? Like, how are you vegan? How are you like, do your fasting and your yoga and all this kind of stuff? They're like, I couldn't do that. And it's like, no, but you could. And like, I'm sober as well, and all of these things. And also with the traveling, they're like, I love this lifestyle you live. If only I could live that. And it's like, yeah, but you can.
You can.
You can.
You choose not to.
Yeah. Or you're so like, you're hearing all the noise of society, and you've got all the fear and all the self-doubt and all of this, that you need to like take off all these layers, all these like masks of who you're told you are, or who you have to perform to be, and find out who you really are.
Because when you're fearless and you're you. I don't know. But that's beautiful. That's beautiful. So there's no like, I mean, in my opinion, there's no formula for being happy. I think happiness are in the moments, and sometimes we live through moments that we're not necessarily happy, but I think it's critical for people to understand that those moments don't last, and to just, control what you can and what you can't, and not what you can't. I don't know. And just be yourself. Just be yourself. Like you said, there's a lot of masks. If you don't know who you are, which is very common today, society will tell you, or will try to tell you who you are.
Try and mold you.
But it is very important for people to remain their inner child. If I could put it that way, just remember who you were, who you knew you were when you were a kid, or something like that.
Yeah, we all have unique skills, and I think the best thing to really understand is like, what did you enjoy doing as a kid? What inspired you? What made you passionate? What were your hobbies? What were your interests? Have a think back to them and go like, am I doing them now? Why aren't I doing them now? Try them out, and then if you enjoy them, it's like, can I make something from this?
Yes.
Rather than like all these other things that we're told we have to do.
Facts, big facts, big facts. So with this personal life coach, is this where you see yourself going for the next, like the next 5 years? And do you think you'll be able to? Would you be a digital nomad as a life coach, sustainably for the next coming years?
Yeah, I think I could, and I hope so. I'm always going with the flow. At this point in my life right now, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm passionate about, and I can't see that changing. But I'm also someone who likes to try new things and is always open to possibilities. And I'm very much like, mindfulness is like being in the moment.
Yes.
Not thinking to the past, not thinking too far to the future, but just thinking about the right now.
Yes.
What's good for me right now.
Facts. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if I haven't asked anything yet. Everything. What would someone want to know about? So for someone, you mentioned that being a life coach and helping people through the way that you're helping is it's very beautiful, obviously, right? So for someone that wants to also become a personal life coach, what track or what like journey, like what path in your journey do you think they can relate to? Is it like having that monk, the monk teacher, the monk that's a teacher,
Yeah.
that part, or is there another alternative route that someone can take to get there?
To be a life coach?
Yes.
I think ultimately, like, there is no one route, and I think you just need to be a life coach. I just think you need to not think about like the money, and you just want to actually think about like the purpose and like the helping people.
Wow, you said that 2 times now. Even when you did OnlyFans, you went with the purpose instead of thinking about the money, and that was successful. And same with a life coach, or do you think this applies to everything? Instead of thinking about the money, you think about the purpose? And
Yeah, I really do. I think like if you're passionate about something and have purpose in it, and you're being authentic, the money will come. If you're really driven by it and you're giving it your all, and you're and you're loving what you do, and ultimately, if you're loving what you do,
it doesn't
matter
matter
about the money.
Facts. It doesn't fucking matter. Yeah, that's a good point.
Money's nice, and it's not a bad thing to have it, and that's something I'm overcoming too, because growing up I really did hear a lot like money is the root of all evil. Probably coming from a family that wasn't well off, and like seeing people that have money and you sort of see how they act, and you get but it's not everyone, it's not, you know?
Yes.
Money's not the root of all evil. I did a podcast on it myself. I did a podcast about in the spiritual realm, so like life coaching, yoga and all these things, is money energy exchange or unethical? And we came to the conclusion that it's an energy exchange, and money's not evil, it's how you use money. And for instance, like I wanted to make money using OnlyFans, because then I can invest that money into coaching, or invest that money into like something else that's like purposeful and meaningful. It's about what you do with it.
Yeah, I love that. It's not just a means to an end. But yeah, Lord, I love what you've been saying. Sounds so good. But I'm also trying to keep this very concise. Are there any challenge? Because I have to admit, not everybody's like you. You're very different. So
that's a word.
Were you always like this, or like when, like what clicked? Were there hard times that made you like something clicked? Like what clicked for you to become this driven?
So I definitely think I've always had this within me, but it's definitely been like shut down from when I was younger. I was heavily bullied throughout school, and actually like I have this badge that I often wear that says take up space, because at school like I just wanted to make myself as small as possible, because I didn't want anyone to see me or hear me, because I didn't want any attention.
Wow.
Because that would have meant that I would have been like picked on and bullied and whatever else. And I think it was really from like leaving school. And I think it was really from my own spiritual journey. I think it was finding spirituality. I think it was finding that this understanding that we are in this like bigger world, we're all interconnected. I think it was from like finding veganism, finding meditation, and I think it was doing the inner work. And I have a lot of like generational like family trauma as well, like a lot of stuff that I need to work through with my mum. So I think really it was about understanding that we are in control of our happiness, we are in control of our destiny. Personality is personal reality, and not having external blame and blaming everyone else for like how you feel, and being like, I choose how I feel. Yeah. I choose who I am was the biggest one as well. So many people were telling me who I was. I had like such like low self-esteem from being bullied, and like I didn't know who I was. I didn't want to be who I was. I was constantly changing my appearance, constantly changing how I act. But when you realize that actually like
you're the captain of your soul, you
are the captain of your ship, that is when you can take your power back. Because no matter what anyone says to you, it's like you understand that that's their projections, and their perspective, and that if you know who you are,
that's like
exactly. It's like with compliments or negatives. It's like don't take negatives like badly, because that's just how someone perceives you. If you know how you perceive yourself, cool. But also don't take compliments too like deeply either, because it's like you're still allowing that person to say who you are. Yeah. It's like
That's a very very good point. Wow, that is so true. I think it's true. I don't know if it's true, but I think it's true.
Don't allow other people's perceptions of you, like, you know, because you're going to be on a constant emotional roller coaster on like who you are and how you feel, because it's going to be how they feel and who they think, you know,
you are, or how they perceive you. So, wow, thank you so much for taking the time to be on this podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Is there any last keyword of advice you would want to leave the audience with, that they can take with them and pursue and resonate with, so that they can be like you or better?
so much that I can't think of right now. But I would say,
What would you tell yourself
What I tell
if you were watching us right now having this conversation?
what I tell myself, if you were on your deathbed and you had 2 minutes to live, and your grandchild asked you, Grandma, Grandpa, you know, how should I live my life? What did you do that you wish you didn't do? Write that down. That message down. That message to me would be something like, live happy, don't let other people tell you what to do, don't worry about money, don't worry about material things. Write whatever it is that comes out and read that back to yourself, and that's the life that you should be living.
Oh, I can't say anymore, guys. It's been an immense pleasure.
Thank you so much.
And I hope we have episode 2 sometime down the line. Not sure when, but I hope. And thank you guys for tuning in. And it's been great.
Thank you. Woo, buddy.
Wow, you're something. Yeah.
That was really fun. Cool.
Man, dude, I don't know what to say.
So much.
Yeah,
So
there's so many. Yeah, you're a real one. Oh, I wanted to ask about ayahuasca. You got lucky. Ooh.
Episode 2.
Yeah, episode 2. Would you do ayahuasca? Have you done it?
I have done it.
Fuck.
I've done many plant medicines. We could do a whole other one on maybe plant medicines.
Yes. I mean, yes.
Or just you could make it like delving deeper into like holistic living, and then we can like spiral off into different things like yoga, meditation, plant medicine like ayahuasca, mushrooms, cambo, bufa. Like.
I'm weird. I've never done any plant. Well, maybe marijuana.
Yeah, that's a plant medicine.
It's the only one. But man, it's so cool.
I bet if you're okay with it, I'd love to have that and put that on my one
For
too,
sure.
maybe. And then like tag you in it as well.
Oh yeah, of course. Did you Where did you do ayahuasca?
So I did it in Poland, but I knew people who knew, I don't know if you know, like the Huniquin tribe or the Yawanawa tribe.
No, I don't even know what the first place you mentioned is.
The Huniquin and Yawanawa are from like Brazil, Peru area. They're an actual like indigenous tribe, and they, like it's part of their culture, part of their medicine. And they brought the medicine over, and they did it at like a friend's place in Poland. And I did it there because I always wanted to do it from the roots. I always wanted to do it in the place where it's from, with people that, you know, not like a westernized person who takes it and goes, I'm going to be a shaman and like, you know, put on some ceremony and play some flutes. Like, no. I wanted to do it with like people and support people.
That's important.
Yeah. And so I did it there. I won, it was just one, because sometimes you do it like 2 or 3 days in a row, but I just did the one session to start with. And to be honest,